Last week, we were fortunate to have on the show the director of the Montgomery County Planning Department at the National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Gwen Wright, who gave our audience a comprehensive overview of the ambitious reimagining of the Montgomery County Development Master Plan known as Thrive Montgomery 2050, which was submitted to the County Council for approval recently. And here today is Meredith Wellington, a former member of the Planning Board and currently the Land Use Policy Planning Analyst for County Executive Mark Elrich. Welcome to the program, Ms. Wellington. Nice to have you.
Nice to be here, Casey, and feel free to call me Meredith.
Okay, thank you. You know, that's my legal training. You want to be sensitive to how you address someone. So from a layman's perspective, the Thrive Montgomery 2050 plan would seem like a reasonable approach to stimulating growth in Montgomery County. But last week, the county executive raised certain concerns, and you're here, I guess, to address some of those issues.
Yes, I am. As a land use policy analyst for the county executive, I have worked a lot on the Thrive Montgomery plan. And I can say this, the county executive has been concerned from the very beginning because of the decision to try to impose the different housing types through what's called a zoning text amendment. This would be county-wide. It would affect all of the residential neighborhoods in Montgomery County in R40, 60, 90 and R200. And the county executive supports the smaller housing types. We already have in Montgomery County duplexes and townhouses, but he would do them through the master plan so that with every master plan, you could go through and identify locations for this housing. And his biggest concern right from the very beginning has been that when planning did their own study on this kind of housing, they found out that the units would be, the least expensive would be around 700,000 going up to 800,000. And yet the groups that planning said they needed to find this housing for in order for equity's sake and to better integrate the county, especially on the west side, those groups' median incomes were between 76 and 78,000. And they could afford a house of somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000, but not houses in the price range that the new housing would cost. It's expensive because it's right near transit, which is where it should be. But that's why the master plan is important, because that way you can combine this new market rate. It's just market rate. It's just hoping developers will build it with affordable housing that is on public land or is in other ways subsidized in order to offer a range of housing, a range of prices.
So, I mean, this is not a unique problem for our area. All metropolitan areas are facing the same concerns. In New York, there was an op-ed in the New York Post that if they wanted affordable housing in New York City, that they needed to subsidize development there through their development. In today's Washington Post, there's an article from Arlington. What size house is too big? Should McMansions be really multi duplexes or quadplexes? So this is something that the county has to struggle with because there is a dearth of affordable housing throughout the county, not just in the western part and the eastern part. So how do you stimulate that, Meredith?
Stimulate the housing through jobs. This is another area in which the county executive disagrees with the Thrive plan. The Thrive plan assumes that if you build lots of attractive housing in, well, they don't even require it to be near transit, but lots of attractive housing and make an attractive community, that the jobs will come. The county executive says just the opposite. When the jobs come, then the housing will follow. And again, planning doesn't listen to its own studies. I mean, first there was the study on how much the housing cost, and they didn't really respond to that. And they've also got an excellent study on White Flint, where the developers in White Flint said, we're not building the buildings that have already been approved because we don't want to take a risk on that kind of expensive housing when job growth isn't where it should be. So this is a big area. Job growth, economic development, the environment. The executive takes exception to the failure to even have a chapter on the environment in what is our general plan. It's our roadmap for the future until 2030. And of course, we need to address the environment in a systematic way. We're all seeing the changes in the climate right here in Montgomery County with flooding. Look at what our weather's been like this week. You know, if it's Friday, it must be blizzard. If it's Saturday, it must be Miami. It's very confusing.
Well, I appreciate the confusion. It is a transition from winter to spring. I think, you know, we're not in Arizona or San Diego where the weather is the same all year round. But you know, I see in the plan, and you know, the plan, you know, follows along some of the things that the county executive certainly wants to do with their proposals about bus rapid transit and other transportation issues. So there are, I assume, are good things in the plan as well as some things that need to be worked on.
That's right. There are good things in the plan, but unfortunately, the goal of the plan seems to be more oriented towards housing than any other aspect of the plan. In other words, the major proposal, the only thing that right now we know that there is interest in implementing is the changes in the housing type and the rezoning of all the single family neighborhoods to this ZTA called the Attainable Housing Initiative. Is itself something that the council has already slowed down, which the county executive strongly supports that. But because both of these things were done together at the same time, the focus has been entirely on housing, and the rest of the things that the plan tries to do have become a footnote. And that's one thing the county executive would like to see, that the plan be fair, be equally clear and definitive in all of the chapters, not just about housing.
Well, from a personal perspective, I'm very selfish because I would like to see affordable housing. My married daughter and her husband are struggling to find a house here in Montgomery County. I hate saying it, they're looking in Falls Church across the river, and you know, I'm mad about that. I hate crossing that bridge. Anyway, Meredith, I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for giving us a great presentation on Thrive.
Well, thank you. And I'll just say that new housing is on the horizon. The county executive certainly supports housing, but this just wasn't the way to accomplish it.
Well, I think, you know, again, I've always, you know, respected the planning department and the planning. You know, you were a commissioner on the planning board for 8 years. You know, you have to struggle with balancing competitive issues as to how to make our county grow. I respect that, and there's always going to be differences of opinion. So hopefully, great minds will work on this and we'll come up with a positive solution.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here today. When we come back from this short break, will MCPS lift the mask mandate? And is the solution to the homeless problem permanent tent cities? Stay tuned.